We'll have a ladies' night up until Ramadan. So each week we'll have a different activity. Also, we have a class for new Muslims. If you're a new Muslim or if you know anybody that wants to learn the basics like how to pray, some essential parts of the Quran to recite, how to fast, how to go to Hajj, things like that, then we have a good class for you. We also have a class for learning how to memorize and recite the Quran, and we have some Arabic classes. So to find out more, you can get a main newsletter. It looks like this, and it's on the table upstairs. So you can grab that on your way out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. I will start with good news. We have a sister here from the US. She's been in Kuwait for 2 years. She's a teacher. She had been a Muslim before, but today she came to officially declare her faith in Islam. So she is Sister Ashley sitting over here. So after the class, you might need to say Assalamu alaikum to her. Yeah. You mind standing up just 1 minute? Yeah. Okay. Actually, what happened last week, we're planning to go ahead with the class. So what happened was we said if we get 10 people, we will continue with the class. But we didn't get 10 people, so we decided to cancel the class. So what we were supposed to learn last week is what we will learn tonight. And next Thursday will be the last class before Ramadan. In Ramadan, we'll have other types of classes, and we will resume the classes on the lives of prophets and messengers maybe in late August. So I will begin with this interesting piece of information. So in some sources they say, in the Noble Quran, the title of the ruler of Egypt during the time of Joseph, Yusuf alayhi salam, is specifically said to be king. So according to this source, the ruler of Egypt during the time of Yusuf alayhi salam was king, whilst that of the title of the ruler of Egypt during the time of Moses is specifically said to be Pharaoh. So according to this source, during the time of Moses, the kings of Egypt were called pharaohs. During the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, the kings of Egypt were called king, just Malik. So this is interesting because according to historical sources, the title Pharaoh only began to be used to refer to the rulers of Egypt, starting with the rule of Thutmose III in 1479 before the Christian era, which was approximately 21 years after Prophet Joseph's death. So according to this source, the title Pharaoh being used for the rulers of Egypt started being used approximately 21 years after the death of Yusuf alayhi salam. But in the narrations of Joseph in the Bible, the title Pharaoh is used for both the rulers of Egypt during Joseph's time and after. This is according to the Bible. So these are the references for all those who need to know more about this piece of information. And according to this website, during the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, the ruler of Egypt is addressed as King, Malik in Arabic. And during the time of Musa alayhi salam, the ruler is called Pharaoh, Fir'aun in Arabic. So this usage is consistent throughout the Quran, according to this website. So now we go into a very interesting topic, and actually this will be somehow a turning point in the life of Yusuf alayhi salam. And there are a lot of questions that we will be asking, and we will be seeking answers to these questions. So the high minister's wife tries to seduce Yusuf. So as we said, Yusuf was taken as a slave to Egypt, and this was wrong from the Islamic point of view. But all in all, he ended in the house of a high minister who was in charge of treasury. People all over the Arabian Peninsula and beyond would go there for their sustenance. And the king, the high minister who bought Yusuf and made him live in his house comfortably, actually treated him well, and at that time, that minister was wielding a high position. So let's see what the Quran says. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ وغلقت الأبواب وقالت هيت لك قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون ولقد همت به وهم بها لولا أن رأى برهان ربه كذلك لنصرف عنه السوء والفحشاء إنه من عبادنا المخلصين واستبق الباب وقدت قميصه من دبر وألف يا سيدها لدى الباب قالت ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك سوءا إلا أن يسجن أو عذاب أليم. The translation is, now she in whose house he was serving solicited him to have him. She wanted to tempt him to have an affair with him. Thus she bolted the doors and said, here I am for you. He said, Allah is my refuge. I will not betray the high minister. Indeed, he is my Lord, who has made excellent my dwelling. He has received me comfortably, he is treating me well, so I can't betray him, and never shall the impious wrongdoers succeed. And very truly, she had firmly set her desire on her, and he too would have set his desire on her had he not seen a guiding proof from his Lord. In this way did we turn evil and lewdness away from him. Indeed, he was one of our sincere elect servants. So they both raced for the door, and she tore his shirt from behind. But they encountered her Lord at the door. At once she said to him, what shall be the recompense for one who desired evil with your wife, but that he be imprisoned or suffer a most painful torment? Now, from the context of these verses, we will be asking three questions. What's the meaning of he too would have set his desire on her had he not seen a guiding proof from Allah? So was Yusuf thinking about her? Did he cross his mind? That will be the first question that we'll ask and we will be answering. The next one, what were the guiding proofs that he saw when when she was trying to seduce him, to have an affair with him? So he saw a guiding proof. So what was this guiding proof? Number three, a witness from among her own people testified in favor of Yusuf. So who was that witness? What was the identity of the witness that testified in favor of Yusuf alayhi salam? So in the verses above, Allah informs us about the moves of the high minister's wife to seduce Yusuf alayhi salam, tempting him to commit an abominable sin, not befitting for his high rank and honor. She was extremely beautiful, elegant, young, rich, and holding a high position. She had adorned herself in the most beautiful of her clothes and then locked the doors. Every move she made was seductive, yet she was a high-ranking minister's wife. Ibn Ishaq, one of the historians, says, moreover, she was King Ar-Rayyan bin Walid's niece. So she was a daughter of King Ar-Rayyan's sister. So she combined being related to the king of the country and being wife of a high minister, being beautiful. So all in all ways, she was attractive to a common person, but not to Yusuf alayhi salam. Now the question here is, she had locked the doors, adorned herself, she made every move she could in order to tempt Yusuf into committing a sin. How many sins in the process did she commit? Was it only one sin? Actually, the sin of committing adultery, this is not counted because she never did it. But in the move, she committed some sins. Can anyone mention one of them? So, to imprison. You mean to lock the house, to be in seclusion with him. The Prophet ﷺ, in a hadith that was narrated by Ibn Abbas, he says, لا يخلون رجل بامرأة إلا مع ذي محرم. So a man is not allowed to sit or stay in seclusion with a strange woman who is not related to him without a third party, without a person among her relatives. So if someone does this, it's a sin. So she was with Yusuf alone and locked the doors. So this is against the teachings of Islam. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, ألا لا يخلون رجل بامرأة إلا كان ثالثهما الشيطان. So a man will not stay in seclusion with a strange woman who is not related to him, except that the devil will be the third. And what will the devil be doing? it will be encouraging both of them to commit a sin. So by locking up herself and Yusuf, this was a sin. What else? What other sin did she commit? Yes, Hudayfa? He was still young. He was not yet a prophet by that time.
She's betraying her husband also.
Betraying her husband. So she was going to betray her husband. Number 3, what else?
Seducing him, she's telling like and she's preparing.
So actually preparing herself, adorning herself, toning down her voice in a seductive way. And actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Ahzab, chapter 33, verse 32, he says, يَا نِسَاءَ النَّبِيِّ لَسْتُنَّ كَأَحْدٍ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ إِنِ اتَّقَيْنَ فَلَا تَخْضَعْنَ بِالْقَوْلِ فَيَطْمَعَ الَّذِي فِي قَلْبِهِ مَرَضٌ وَقُلْنَ قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. The translation is, O wives of the Prophet, you are not like any other category of women if you remain pious. So do not be soft in your speech. So when you're speaking to strangers, don't be soft in such a way that the person will be tempted to seek to have affairs with you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what's the reason? Such that the one in whose heart there is a disease may become desirous. So don't speak in a soft way, in an attractive way, such that a person who isn't pious will be desirous to make moves or to flirt around with you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, he says, rather speak a forthright word. So he's addressing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing Prophet Muhammad's wives when they talk to strangers, not to soften their voice in such a way that the man will misunderstand it. You know, I usually give this example. I know someone, I will just share it quickly. He went to a hotel and a lady at the reception was talking to him nicely, smiling. So the guy came to me and said, you know, I would like you to go with me and translate for me. The lady loves me. She was smiling. She was talking in a soft voice. I want to marry her. I told him, being a receptionist, this is a requirement for her to talk nicely to everyone, not only to you. He said, no, but she was continuously looking at me. She was staring at me. That's why she likes me. So he forced me to go and translate for him. She told me, Mr. Hassan, tell your friend, I am married, I have children. If I was smiling, it's a requirement in my job. And if he tries this again, I'm going to call police. So it depends on where you are and whom you're talking to. This is why the Prophet ﷺ tells women, when you talk to strangers, mind your tone. Because you might talk in such a way, they might think that you are interested in them, yet you are not interested in them. So this was another sin that she committed, trying to be attractive to a person who was actually in her house, who was serving her and her husband. So Ibn Ishaq tells us that this was a lady from a high class. She was related to the king. Her husband was a high minister. So at least there should have been some respect. So all this happened at a time when Yusuf was still a young man, very handsome, elegant and radiant. Moreover, he was destined to be a prophet of noble descent who descended from a lineage of prophets and messengers. How then could he stoop so low as to commit such an abominable sin, given his high rank as a would-be prophet? So he was destined to be a prophet. He was from a lineage of prophets and messengers, so he couldn't commit such a sin. Therefore, Allah protected him from that obscene act and saved him from the tricks of that woman. Therefore, he is of those at the top of the list of the 7 special categories of pious believers with outstanding character, whom the Prophet ﷺ told us about. The Prophet ﷺ told us that on the Day of Judgment, 7 categories of people will be given a shade from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, protecting them from the sun. The sun will come down a distance of 1 mile. It will be 1 mile away from us. Nowadays, it's billions of miles away from us. But during summer, you can't stay in a house without an AC. And sometimes people complain, it's very hot in the classroom. Switch on the AC. On the Day of Judgment, there is no any facility, no houses, no structures, no ACs. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide a shade for you according to your deeds. So if you want to be provided for on the Day of Judgment, you start investing now in what will help you on the Day of Judgment. And these are 7 things that will bring you will bring you the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in that He will protect you under a special shade from Him. So the Prophet ﷺ says, سَبْعَةٌ يُظِلُّهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي ظِلِّهِ يَوْمَ لَا ظِلَّ إِلَّا ظِلُّهُ الْإِمَامُ الْعَادِلُ وَشَابٌ نَشَأَ فِي عِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ وَرَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُعَلَّقٌ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ وَرَجُلَانِ تَحَابَّا فِي اللَّهِ اجْتَمَعَا عَلَيْهِ وَتَفَرَّقَا عَلَيْهِ وَرَجُلٌ طَلَبَتْهُ امْرَأَةٌ ذَاتُ مَنْصِبٍ وَجَمَالٍ فَقَالَ إِنِّي أَخَافُ اللَّهَ وَرَجُلٌ تَصَدَّقَ فَأَخْفَى صَدَقَتَهُ حَتَّى لَا تَعْلَمَ شِمَالُهُ مَا تُنْفِقُ يَمِينُهُ وَرَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَالِيًا فَفَاضَتْ عَيْنَاهُ. The translation is, Abu Hurairah narrated that the Messenger ﷺ said, seven categories of people are those whom Allah will give protection with His shade on the day when there will be no shade except His shade. A just ruler, a youth who grows up worshipping Allah, a person whose heart is attached to the mosques, two persons who love each other for the sake of Allah, they meet for His sake, for the sake of Allah, and are separated by death on that love, while still loving one another for the sake of Allah. A man who is seduced by a high-ranking and beautiful woman, but he rejects the illicit offer and says, I fear Allah. And this is Yusuf alayhi salam and all those who are like him. A man who gives charity and conceals it to the extent that his left hand does not know what his right hand gives, and a man who remembers Allah in solitude when he is alone and his eyes wet up with tears. So Yusuf alayhi salam was seduced by a beautiful lady from a high family, with having a high minister. So all in all, she was attractive. But Yusuf, because he was afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he did not fall prey to her seductive tricks. So the high minister's wife was strongly determined to have an extramarital affair with Yusuf. However, Yusuf, a high-born young man of noble character, strongly declined. What did he say? مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ رَبِّي أَحْسَنَ مَثْوَاهُ. May Allah protect me. I seek refuge in Allah. So in such a situation, what do? You are in a stranger's house. It's not your father's house, not your brother's house. And here she is, a lady trying to have affairs with you. After locking the doors, there is no escape for you. Who will help? Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he began by saying, Ma'ad Allah. Allah is my refuge. So I seek protection in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I will not betray the high minister. Indeed, he is my Lord. He has made excellent my dwelling. In other words, because the high minister treated him well, he ordered his wife to provide for him well, to prepare well his place for living, for sleeping. So he can't betray him. And this teaches us a lesson. So Yusuf alayhi salam says, I cannot betray him because he has been so good and kind to me. What do we learn from this? So first, Yusuf fears Allah. Secondly, he cannot betray someone who has been so good to him. What do we learn from this? Sincerity. So Yusuf alayhi salam was sincere to Allah and was sincere with his Lord. So this means he was not treated as a slave in that house. His treatment was different, because if someone was mistreated, it would have been an opportunity for him to revenge in a different way. If some people are mistreated and they get the chance to have an affair with the wife of a husband who is mistreating them, they will go for it. But this means Yusuf alayhi salam was being treated well. And this is a lesson to us, that if you treat someone well, first in order to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and secondly to take care of him as a human being, Allah will protect you and your family in different ways. So because this man treated well Yusuf could not entertain the idea of betraying him, having extramarital affairs with his wife. So according to the wife of the minister, it was an extramarital affair, and according to Yusuf, it would have been a premarital affair, both of which are not allowed in Islam. They are haram. So Yusuf says that man was good to him, he cannot betray him. In the verse above, Joseph rejected the temptations of that woman, saying, I can't betray my master because he has hitherto been so kind, generous, and considerate to me. Moreover, he has honored me and made my stay comfortable by providing me with a befitting accommodation as well as treating me well. So because that high minister was treating Yusuf well, Yusuf cannot in any way betray him, whether having an affair with his wife or doing something else. So this is a lesson to us. If you have a servant and you want this servant to be loyal to you, among other things, treat them well. As we always say, someone who prepares your food that you eat, you have to treat them well, because if you mistreat them, they will revenge and harm you in one way or the other. They can put some harmful stuff in your food, you eat it, you don't know what's there, then in the long run, you will suffer. So your good actions will protect you here on earth, and in the hereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you abundantly. As such, Allah protected, shielded, and proved him innocent from that heinous sin that the minister's wife wanted him to commit. Because he was afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was also appreciative of the favors that the high minister has done to him. Appreciating is very important in Islam. The Prophet ﷺ says, if anyone does you a favor, appreciate him. Thank him for the favor. Thank him. Pray for him. So these are among the teachings of the Prophet. So he thwarted her aggressive attempts to implicate him in that heinous act, Yusuf ﷺ, and said, إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. Indeed, never will the impious wrongdoers succeed. Now, the word zalim has a lot of connotations. Can anyone share with us any among the connotations of the word zalim? It's commonly translated as a wrongdoer, an unjust person, an unfair person, but it has more connotations than those. Can anyone share any of the meanings of the word zalim? It means an oppressor, someone who is unjust, a sinner. What else? And actually, zalim, when you are a zalim, you are not doing injustice to others only. You are doing injustice to yourself as well. Because when you commit sins here on earth, you will pay the price before the hereafter. So Yusuf is telling her that any wrongdoer who does not appreciate the favors done to him, and actually another meaning of zalim is a person who does not appreciate, an ungrateful person. So if someone is ungrateful, is a zalim. Someone has done you a favor, and instead of paying him for the favor, or appreciating his favor, or praying for him at least, you decide to plot against that person. So this is injustice and fairness. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls shirk dhulm. Inna shirka la dhulmun azim. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you. Before creating you, He created for you. He's protecting you. Now instead of worshipping Him, you worship others who didn't do anything for you. So this is unfairness. You're being unfair to Allah, who has been protecting you, giving you all the skills that you need to survive. Not only will He protect you here on earth, even when you die, He will be protecting you on the day of judgment. He will reward you for the small good deeds that you performed. Instead of appreciating His favor, His kindness, you worship something that doesn't speak. You worship someone who does not help you in any way. So here, Yusuf is telling us, anyone who is unjust, who is unfair, he can't succeed in any way. So it is unfair to have an affair with someone's wife who has been generous and hospitable to me. If I do that, it will be a blatant injustice to him and a sign of ingratitude. Hence, I would neither be happy, because fornicators and adulterers, never would they be happy, nor would I survive that sin. So everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden, if you continuously commit it, as we said before, you pay the price here on earth before the hereafter. You might enjoy momentarily, but time will come when you will regret it, when it will be too late. So what's the real meaning of the following verse? وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. So, and very truly, she had firmly set her desire on her, and he too would have set his desire on her had he not seen a guiding proof from his Lord. So some people might think that when she was attempting to have an affair with him and he gave it a thought, maybe it affected him in one way or the other. So what does it exactly mean? Abu Hatim says, the order of the sentence is switched so that the first phrase became the last and the last became the first. What does it mean? It should read, had he not seen a guiding proof from his Lord, he would have set his desire on her. But he saw a guiding proof from his Lord, so he didn't have any desire for her at all. So because he saw a proof, he saw a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he didn't entertain any desire for her. Despite her different attempts to seduce him, she did not succeed as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him in various ways, and he showed him some guidelines. He gave him guidance to avoid it at all. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Do not approach adultery. Do not approach fornication. Not only don't you commit it, he says don't approach it. Anything that will bring you closer to fornication, adultery, avoid it, stay away from it, because it's an abominable sin. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him even from approaching that sin, even from thinking about it. So this opinion is supported by the following verse of the Noble Quran. The Noble Quran says, وَإِذَا جَاءَهُمْ أَمْرٌ مِّنَ الْأَمْنِ أَوِ الْخَوْفِ أَذَاعُوا بِهِ وَلَوْ رَدُّوهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ وَإِلَى أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ لَاتَّبَعْتُمُ الشَّيْطَانَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. And again, when there comes to them a matter, Allah is talking about the hypocrites. So when there is a problem with regard to the security of Medina, they would scare the believers. They would spread the news. But if there came good news about Islam and Muslims, they would conceal the good news. So the hypocrites were about destabilizing the state of Medina, casting fear into the Muslims, trying to drag them into being like them, hypocrites. So Allah is castigating them, is rebuking them. He says, and again, when there comes to them a matter, be it of general security or alarm, they broadcast it. But if they referred it to the messenger and to those in authority among them, those of them who could discover its veracity and know of it and act accordingly, it would be better. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concludes this ayah. He says, and had it not been for the grace of Allah and His mercy upon you, all but a few of you believers would have followed the temptations of Satan. So even if we try to protect ourselves, it's by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah is telling us here, no matter how much you try to stay from evil, no matter how much you try to stay away from the temptations of the devil, you still need the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you don't have the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can easily fall prey into a sin. So Allah protected Yusuf alayhi salam, and Allah is protecting every believer who sincerely believes in him and seeks protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yusuf said, Ma'adallah, who was seeking the protection of Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wouldn't let him down after seeking his protection. And this applies to each and everyone. If you believe in Allah sincerely, and in whatever situation you are, you seek His protection with firm faith that He will help you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be there for you. Ash-Shinqiti said, what is construed by the probability of Yusuf having a desire for her is that an idea about her would have crossed his mind, which was kept away from him by Allah's help, then his religious commitment, as well as a deterrent of fearing Allah. So here he says, Yusuf would have thought about her, but he was a believer with firm belief in Allah. So because he was committed to his religion, he was fearing Allah, then Allah protected him. So you fear Allah, Allah will protect you. This is why Sheikh Sha'rawi, when he interpreted the verse, Man yahdillahu fala mudilla lahu, whoever Allah guides, no one can misguide him. And whoever Allah allows to be misguided, no one can guide him. Sheikh Sha'rawi says there are two types of guidance. Does anyone know any of these two types of guidance? One of them is called Hidayatul Dilala, to show the way. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided all mankind. He sent to us prophets and messengers. He gave us divine books. He said He created in us the understanding and realization of what's sin, of what's good and what's bad. So we can easily differentiate between good and bad. So if you follow the guidance of Allah sincerely, He will guide you more. But if you become stubborn, you think you can be guided by your own, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will let you go astray. As we said before, for example, you're driving somewhere, you get lost, you ask a traffic policeman and he tells you, I've been here for 20 years. He guides you to the right path that you have to take to your destination. If you are stubborn and say, no, but I have GPS. My GPS tells me after 1 meter I should go right. Now you're telling me to go left. Yet he has already told you he's been there for 20 years. So he will say, okay, you depend on your GPS. Leave me alone. But if you appreciate him, oh, thank you, you've saved me, I would have gotten lost, then he will guide you more. He will say, okay, let me ride with you. There are some problems in front of you over there. So if you show readiness to follow the guidance, you make baby steps, Allah will guide you more. But if you become stubborn, Allah will let you follow what you want. And in the end, you will be the loser. So Yusuf alayhi salam asked Allah to protect him. He was afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had religious commitment. So Allah protected him from committing that sin. Some scholars and exegetes of the Noble Quran opined thus. That phrase of the verse alluded to the inborn character and natural urge of humans, as well as the lustful instinct, which is part of the innate constitution of humans. So all of us who have this urge, this desire of wanting to satisfy our carnal desires, whether licitly or illicitly, the desire is inborn in ourselves. So we can't avoid it except if we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us, and we keep remembering the punishment of Allah, and we follow other mechanisms that will help us stay on track. So however, this kind of lustful instinct in Yusuf was bridled by the fear of Allah. So that lustful instinct is not sinful because it's natural in human beings. So every human being has a natural desire of satisfying his carnal desires. So long as you suppress it by the fear of Allah, you suppress it by religious commitment, yes, the idea pops up in your mind, but you say, I'm afraid of Allah. So Allah will not hold you accountable by an idea until it's translated into action. When this idea is translated into action, this is when you are responsible, and this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will write a sin against you. So for argument's sake, even if Yusuf had thought about it, since it wasn't translated into action, that wasn't recorded against him, and he didn't think about it at all. Another answer is that Yusuf didn't set any desire on that woman because he received guidance from Allah. So he didn't set any desire at all. About that issue, Ibn Kathir comments this. All in all, we should completely believe that Allah protected Yusuf from committing that abominable sin. This is confirmed by the following verse of the Noble Quran. Allah says, وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُخْلَصِينَ. And very truly, she had firmly set her desire on him, and he too would have set his desire on her had he not seen a guiding proof from his Lord. In this way did we turn evil and lewdness away from him. Indeed, he was one of our sincere elect servants. So because he was sincere, he was afraid of Allah, he was a committed person, Allah protected him. He didn't even think about her. There is a psychological issue here. Even though the lustful desire is innate in our natural constitution, can you have it with anyone you see? Even if a woman is beautiful or a man is handsome, just the moment you see him, will you have this desire for him? No, it's not necessary that every person you see, you'll have a desire for him or her. It's a psychological issue. There are a lot of things that come into play to make someone attractive to you. And actually, in that situation, when a woman who is married makes moves to flirt around with a young man who has been in her house, he would be afraid. He would be threatened for so many reasons. So in his heart, he can't entertain any idea because it's strange. It's strange to him. So it does not mean that every time, although we have this natural desire of wanting to satisfy our carnal desires, that every time you see a beautiful woman, you desire her. No, it's not the case. There are some situations whereby even if she's beautiful, you consider some other things. And actually they say beauty is in the eyes of a beholder. So it depends on a person. Someone who is beautiful to someone might not be beautiful to another person. So, and actually every culture, every country, every nation, every tribe, they have their own standards of beauty. So it's a relative issue depending on where you come from. Some people care about a physical beauty. Some people care about intelligence. So it does not mean that although this natural desire is in every person, that every man, the moment you see a woman, you will desire her. A woman, the moment she sees a man, she will desire him. It's not in that way. And actually it's easy to control it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for argument's sake, For argument's sake, Yusuf alayhi salam didn't entertain any thought of her at all. Although in some interpretations they say he had thought about her and something happened. No, he didn't. According to majority of the scholars and interpreters, Allah protected him. He didn't think of her at all. At all. He didn't have any idea. He didn't have any emotional attachment to her, although she had tried her best. So for argument's sake, let's see this hadith. It was narrated by Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن الله كتب الحسنات والسيئات ثم بين ذلك فمن هم بحسنة فلم يعملها كتبها الله له عنده حسنة كاملة فإن هو هم بها وعملها كتبها الله له عنده 10 حسنات إلى 700 ضعف إلى أضعاف كثيرة ومن هم بسيئة فلم يعملها كتبها الله له عنده حسنة كاملة فإن هو هم بها فعملها كتبها الله له سيئة واحدة كتبها الله عليه سيئة واحدة. It's عليه. So Abdullah ibn Abbas narrated that the Messenger of Allah said, narrating from his Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes down the good deeds and the bad deeds. Then he explained, the Prophet, he explained it by saying, he who intends to do a good deed but doesn't do it, Allah writes it down with himself as a full good deed. So you intended to do an act of worship for one reason or the other, you didn't do it, Allah rewards you as though you did it, even if you didn't do it. And this is why we say, Al-ibada ismun jami'un li kulli ma yuhibbuhu Allah wa yardah min al-aqwali wal-af'ali al-dhahira wal-batina. So when we talk about worship, it's a collective term, which includes everything that you say, everything that you do, everything that you think of, so long as it pleases Allah, it's beneficial to you and to the community, you get rewarded for that. Even a mere thought, if it's a good thought, you have plans to do something, whether you will do it or not, so long as you have this plan, Allah rewards you for that. But if he intends to commit a bad deed and doesn't commit it, then Allah writes it down with himself as a full good deed. So a person intended to commit a sin, willingly or unwillingly, he was not able to commit it. Whether it was beyond his capability or whether it was within his capability, whatever the intention, so long as he didn't commit the sin, a good deed is rewarded, it is recorded for him. So you get 1 hasana just for thinking about committing a sin and you didn't commit it for one reason or the other, you get 1 reward. And if you intend to do a good deed and you did it, you performed it, you will get from 10 up to 700 and much more, depending on your intention. So when someone thinks about something bad, he mouths a bad idea, but he doesn't implement it, he abstains, he gets 1 reward. Allah rewards him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so generous. And if you didn't commit it, you didn't commit a sin, nothing is recorded against you. And there's another hadith by An-Nu'man bin Bashir, one of the bona fide companions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, "Man lam yashkur al-qalil lam yashkur al-kathir, wa man lam yashkur an-nas lam yashkur Allah, wa tahaddathu bi ni'mati Allah shukr, wa tarkuha kufr, wal jama'atu rahma, wal furqatu adhab." The translation is, An-Nu'man bin Bashir narrated that the Messenger of Allah said, whoever fails to show gratitude for small favors done or given to him won't be grateful for big ones. So if you do someone a small service and he isn't grateful for it, and he says, how come he just gives me only 1 KD, 2 KDs? This very person, even if you give him 100, he will still not be grateful for that. Moreover, whoever does not thank humans for whatever they do for him won't thank Allah. On the other hand, talking about the bounties and blessings of Allah is among the aspects of showing gratitude, and ignoring that is regarded as ingratitude. More so, staying united brings about Allah's mercy, and diversiveness brings about punishment. How is this hadith related to the story of Yusuf alayhi salam? This prophetic narration, how is it related to the story of Yusuf? Especially with regard to the episode when the high minister's wife wanted to have an extramarital affair with him. Yes, sister?
He was grateful to the Aziz because he was raised in his house and he protected his...
Yeah.
He didn't touch his wife.
Yes, actually he protected the honor of the high minister who had treated him well. So this was a sign of gratitude. I can't betray a person who has been kind to me, who has been graceful to me. So this was a kind of gratitude, doing acts that prove that you are grateful to the person who has been doing favors to you. What else? What else? How is this hadith connected to the story of Yusuf, especially the episode when the high minister's wife wanted to have an illicit affair with him? So the sister said it's a sign of gratitude not to infringe upon the honor of that high minister having an affair with his wife. What else? Yes, sister?
He was grateful to her as well because she kept him as like a child.
Mm-hmm,
Growing up, I guess. And he was grateful that she treated him well, she never abused him and everything. So he was grateful to her being nice, not that he would abuse this when he grows up and has these feelings.
Yeah, actually, this is a good point. He was also grateful to her because he didn't want to commit a sin, so she would get a sin, he would also get a sin. So when someone rejects any attempt to commit a sin that someone is encouraging him to do, he's actually doing service to that person. Because when you encourage someone to commit a sin, you get double sins. The sin of you doing it and the sin of encouraging the other. So Yusuf alayhi salam was also saving her from that sin, that humiliation, that embarrassment, that betrayal. The idea would always be haunting her, how she betrayed her husband. So what else? So this was also a sign of gratitude to her. What else? This hadith, how is it connected to the story of Yusuf? So not only did he abstain from betraying the high minister, he also spoke about it, telling his wife that he has been kind to me, he has been hospitable to me, so I can't betray him. What do we learn from this?
He's honest.
So this means this is a sign of honesty and integrity. And actually, we always say that all the rules and commands of Islam concentrate on three things: your relationship with Allah, your sincerity and integrity, and how you treat the creatures of Allah. If you really believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you should have some integrity in you. You should be sincere because Allah is watching over you. Islam is not a lip service religion. There is nothing that you can hide from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you sincerely love Allah, if you really love Allah and your relationship is strong with Allah, you have to be sincere in your heart. Although people might not know what you are thinking about, what you're planning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala watches over you. There is nothing that you can hide from Allah. So if you're really a believer in Allah, you have to be sincere, you have to enjoy some integrity, and you have to treat well the creatures of Allah. So one way of treating well the creatures of Allah is to appreciate what they do for you, what they give you, and also to appreciate how they treat you. So someone who has been treating you well, instead of praying for him, instead of paying back, instead of thanking him, you betray him in his own house. This is a very big sin in Islam. What else? What else do you learn from this? So not only did he abstain from betraying his master, but he also talked about the blessings. You know, some people, especially when they are in high position, someone who was mentoring them, who was training them, now they are in high position, they forget everything about that person. When they see that person, they feel intimidated, they feel inferior. So they don't like to see him. Sometimes they seek even to eliminate him because of their ego. So how come this guy was the one who mentored me? Now I'm a superhero in front of my audience, my followers. I am afraid he will tell them that he did me this and that. So he doesn't want to see that person. So, but Yusuf was speaking, even in the absence of the man, he was speaking positively about him. You know, sometimes both men and women, you meet with a man who is married, you do him a service, you give him advice, and this man will start enumerating to you the weaknesses of his wife. She did this and that. The wife as well, meeting a stranger, maybe she needs something from him, and for one reason or the other, she starts revealing all the secrets between her and her husband. This isn't allowed in Islam. So Yusuf was not seeking this opportunity. Now the wife of the high minister wants to lure him into a sin, so saying, okay, you know, your husband is a bad man, he's doing this and that. No, even in the absence of the man, he was talking positively about him. Actually, it's rare to find someone who talks positively who talks about you positively behind your back. You know, sometimes I get people who are friends. They come to me every day. I see them as friends, and ostensibly I admire their friendship. But you know what happens? When you praise one of them, he becomes angry. After some time, he says, you know, you praised so and so, my friend. Do you know what he does? He does this. A person who is his friend. Now, because you didn't praise the other one, he feels jealous. And he begins to recount to you all the weaknesses of his friend, which is wrong. If you are a friend, you should be able to conceal the secrets of your friend. But this doesn't happen. So some people would laugh with you, would smile with you. You know, I used to work somewhere in one country a long time ago, and I used to have a colleague. He would bring tea, bring some snacks, and force me to drink tea with him. Although I would refuse, no, you don't like my food, you don't like my tea, I would drink tea with him. Then he would go to the boss and say, Mr. Hassan is not working every time he's drinking tea and eating snacks. Yet he was the one forcing me to have tea with him. Yeah, smiling, talking, claiming to be a friend. Behind my back, he's going to the manager and telling him, Mr. Hassan. So because of that, I stopped drinking tea at work. Because you don't know what they will say about you. So there is a quote here. Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all the darkness. How is this quote connected to the story of Yusuf alayhi salam? How can we connect this quote to the story of Yusuf? Yes, sister.
When he was imprisoned, in the room with her, and then he was in jail for many years, reveal the reasons of the actual reasons, or he will reveal the true story behind them, and the true personality of him to people, and then he will be free again. And when he was imprisoned in that room by the wife of the Prime Minister, as well, he knew that he would be innocent at the end, and nothing will happen.
Yeah, nothing would happen to him. You know, a common person would be afraid. Even though he didn't want to commit the sin, he would otherwise do it because she would threaten him. If you don't, I'm going to scream that you raped me, that you did this and that. She would blackmail him, intimidate him. But he had hope. He was strongly believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, actually, I will end with this, with about 3 slides of this, and next week we'll continue. So what was the guiding proof that Yusuf saw when that woman was aggressively trying to seduce him? So the Quran says, she had set her desire on him, and he too would have set his desire on her if he did not see a guiding proof from Allah. So what was the proof? First of all, a disclaimer. There is no any textual evidence either from the Quran or from the Sunnah that explains clearly the essence of the guiding proof. So there is no verse that says that tells us the nature of that proof, nor any of the narrations of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just alluded to a guiding proof that Yusuf saw without telling us what exactly it was. So if it's not in the Quran, and if it's not in the narrations of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we can't take it seriously. But what we can do, we can just share with each other some thoughts of some scholars, some opinions, just for the sake of learning something. But we can't for sure believe that this was the proof. So, however, some exegetes of the Noble Quran have attempted to explain what that proof was. Abu Saleh, for example, said he saw the image of his father Yaqub on the roof of the house, biting his hand, biting his finger, cautioning him, saying, oh Yusuf, don't do it. So this opinion says, when the woman is trying to seduce him, to force him into having an affair with her, he saw the image of his father on the roof, Yaqub, telling him, Yusuf, don't do it. And the reference is there. Muhammad ibn Ka'b al-Qurashi said, he saw the following verse of the Noble Quran inscribed on the roof of the house. What does it say? وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. And you will not ever approach illicit sexual intercourse, whether it's adultery or fornication, indeed it's utter lewdness and most evil way. So according to Muhammad bin Ka'b, this verse was inscribed on the roof of the house. So while she was trying to maneuver to have an affair with him, he saw that verse, and that was a complete deterrent for him to even think about having an affair with her. Ibn Ishaq and other historians maintained that he saw the image of his master, so whom they call Qitfir, others Qitfir. So the Lord, the high minister who had employed him, who was outside of the house at that time. So when this woman was trying to seduce him, he saw his image, and this was a deterrent for him. However, Al-Quradi said he saw the following verses of the Noble Quran. So he saw a couple of verses that was also a deterrent for him even to think about her. One of them was وَإِنَّ عَلَيْكُمْ لَحَافِظِينَ كِرَامًا كَاتِبِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ مَا تَفْعَلُونَ. While indeed ever vigilant over you are guardian angels, noble ones, writing everything. They know all that you do. Who are the angels that are writing what we do? There's one who writes good deeds and another one writing the bad deeds. Does anyone know their names? Yes, sister?
Names I don't know, but I know.
Raqib and Atid. So there are two angels, one writing the good deeds and one writing the evil ones, the sins that you commit. However, actually, when the one who is commissioned to write the sins, when he wants to write, the one who writes the good one stops him. Don't write. Don't just wait. Don't write. Another verse that he saw, وَمَا تَكُونُ فِي شَأْنٍ وَمَا تَتْلُو مِنْهُ مِنْ قُرْآنٍ وَلَا تَعْمَلُونَ مِنْ عَمَلٍ إِلَّا كُنَّا عَلَيْكُمْ شُهُودًا إِذْ تُفِيضُونَ فِيهِ وَمَا يَعْزُبُ عَنْ رَبِّكَ مِنْ مِثْقَالِ ذَرَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فِي السَّمَاءِ وَلَا أَصْغَرَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ وَلَا أَكْبَرَ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ. So the translation is, for you will never be engaged in any affair, O Prophet and others, nor will you recite any verses concerning it, the Quran, concerning the affair that you want to do from the Quran or you want to preach to the people, nor will you do any deed at all, or people, or believers and others, but that we are witnesses of each of you when you are occupied with what you do. And then it continues, for there is not even an atom's weight in the earth, nor in the heaven that eludes your Lord. Nor is there anything smaller than that, nor larger, but that it is recorded in a clear heavenly book. So the verses allude to the fact that Allah knows everything in the heavens and earth. What you are harboring in your heart, Allah is aware of them. So again, this was a deterrent for Yusuf alayhi salam, who was already not inclined to having an affair with that woman. Another one, أَفَمَنْ هُوَ قَائِمٌ عَلَى كُلِّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ وَجَعَلُوا لِلَّهِ شُرَكَاءَ قُلْ سَمُّوهُمْ أَمْ تُنَبِّئُونَهُ بِمَا لَا يَعْلَمُ فِي الْأَرْضِ أَمْ بِظَاهِرٍ مِّنَ الْقَوْلِ بَلْ زُيِّنَ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مَكْرُهُمْ وَصَدُّوا عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ يُضْلِلِ اللَّهُ فَمَا لَهُ مِنْ هَادٍ. Then is the one who stands watchful over every soul as to what it earns, not deserving of all worship? Wherefore, they who disbelieve appoint for Allah associate gods. Say, O Prophet, name these alleged gods. Name these alleged gods are the likes of you to inform him as to what he knows not in the earth. In other words, are any people like you or your gods to inform Allah what to do? Allah knows everything. Or is it just a mere display of words? Yes, indeed, it's their very own contriving that has made fair seeming to those who have disbelieved. Thus have they been barred from the straight way, and whoever Allah leaves to stray, no guide will ever be there for him. So again, this was another verse that Yusuf saw that continued to encourage him to abstain, to stay away from that woman. Al-Awza'i said he saw verses of the Noble Quran preventing him from the heinous act the high minister's wife tried to entice him to do. So Al-Awza'i didn't specify the verses. Ibn Jarir and Abu Ja'far said the most credible opinion about this issue is that he saw the guiding signs of Allah, what prevented him from setting his desire on her. So he saw guiding proofs which we don't know about. So these are some opinions about the guiding proofs that Yusuf saw when the woman was maneuvering to have an affair with him, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him. Now, next week, we'll begin with now what happened when he was racing towards the door to escape from the house. She was racing behind him, and they found the master, the high minister, at the door while the woman was chasing him. And she started accusing him that he's the one who initiated it. So, and then an eyewitness appeared who was related to her. So we will see who the eyewitness was. So this will be the episode that we'll begin with next week. So any comments, any questions about this issue? Yes, sister?
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
These other very learned men, obviously, great historians, how could they come up with these ideas if they're not?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, maybe they got some ideas from the stories of the children of Israel. You know, the Prophet ﷺ told us in a hadith, you cannot completely belie the stories of the children of Israel, and you cannot completely accept that they are true. So you just share them so long as they do not contradict with the teachings of Islam. That's one. Number two, maybe they were just brainstorming with one another, pondering over the verses of the Quran and thinking maybe this is what's happened.
But it's not up to them to do that, really. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it wasn't written in the Quran, it's not in the Rasul, his hadith. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand. And this is why I made a disclaimer that there's no any concrete proof in the Quran or in the hadith that we can stick to. Just when we share such opinions, it's just for the sake of broadening our ideas. And actually, one of the reasons is the importance of sharing them is there are some countries somewhere in Asia and Africa. Everything written about Islam in Arabic is sacrosanct. So any book written in Arabic about Islam, they treasure it and they think that so long as it's written in Arabic, every information is true. So someone might read a book written in Arabic, find these ideas, go and preach. Yeah, she saw this. And he will find a lot of followers. And they will believe in him. And it will take a long time to make them believe otherwise. Another one might take another idea. And actually what's funny is because of such ideas, you will find some sects of Muslims fighting against each other, contradicting each other. Yet they are minor issues, not in the Quran, not in the Sunnah.
But that's, I just want to elaborate on what you're saying.
Yes.
It isn't written, and it's speculation.
Yes, just
It's
speculation.
speculation. We all can, including me and you, Mr. Hassan, Brother Hassan, come to our own conclusions.
Yeah.
When learned people, voices of authority, people who are the interpreters of the word, are giving their opinion, it kind of almost becomes policy. People will be drawn to it and see it as, and you just said something there about it creates a divisiveness. Whatever's written in Arabic is treated as scriptural almost. And I'm not being blasphemous saying that.
Yeah.
So where is it that these opinions have become part of the greater story? If you like, they're being validated in a way by the story itself. They become part of the canon, if you like, of the story.
Yeah.
And this does create opinion amongst people, and therefore.
Yeah, actually, learning about such opinions isn't haram.
No, it isn't.
Sharing them isn't haram. The problem is if you make them part and parcel of Islam and start legislating rules based on them.
But this is my point. The point is that when they are published like this, you're, people are referring to them as not being the word, but they've got immediate credibility. Immediately they're endorsed. So it's actually doing exactly what, creating a divisiveness.
Yeah, actually, you know what? This divisiveness comes out of ignorance. For example, we have Imam Shafi'i. He was one of the scholars, leaders of the 4 schools of legal thought in Islam. What would he say? He would say, إِذَا صَحَّ الْحَدِيثُ فَهُوَ مَذْهَبِي. So I have an opinion. Someone else has another opinion. I don't have any evidence to prove that my opinion is correct. So if someone else comes with his opinion, which is stronger than mine, furnished with an evidence from the Quran and from the Sunnah, I will follow him.
Correct, but the voice to a larger audience. I mean, this is to a following, you know. I might have an opinion, and I've already formed one, you know, just becoming familiar with the story now. But it will be shared with whoever I discuss with, do a Nia or whatever of it. It'll never reach the state of critical mass, if you like, where these honourable gentlemen, they have that platform. So in some way, I feel that it's better if they aren't putting what is their opinion. They can share that opinion, but there's no way I would be able. You know, you just said that if you come with another opinion, and the gentleman will obviously. It's too late then, because that change has to get across to a broader audience also. So I'm not criticizing it. It's
actually, you know,
it's persuasive.
Actually, you know what happened during their time? There was lack of information. It wasn't easy to get access to information, and people wanted to guide people to good morals and manners. So if there is an idea that can help people stick to something, because there is a saying which says, "Al-hikmatu dallatul mu'min, aynama wajadaha akhadha biha." Wisdom is a goal of a believer. From wheresoever he gets this wisdom, he will take it. And this is one of the reasons why we're allowed to share the history of the children of Israel, because there is wisdom in it. So maybe you are in a different society, you are in a different country, there is a problem, there is no any direct verse in the Quran or saying of the Prophet addressing the issue, but you had a scholar saying something which is good that can bring people together, then you stick on that. But it's the responsibility of the scholar to tell the people, to give them a disclaimer that this is my opinion. If you find something stronger than my opinion, go for it. He should not preach it as a doctrine, his opinion.
This is healthy debate, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Economic competition, but by virtue of the statement there is that at the beginning the disclaimer says, if it's written, it's written. Believe it. If it's written and supported, believe it. If the book of the book of the Bible, if there's references in that which mirror directly the writings in the Quran, the teachings in the Quran, the Word of God, then it's supported. Okay? Never misinterpret it. Never create, have your own view or opinion. It's wrong. Because if it's written, it's written. But when you put this up and you made a disclaimer to say, this is by the way, this is not written, but it's given to us to consider. When we've already been told before that, don't consider anything unless it's hard evidence. You see my point? That for me becomes a suggestion that there is evidence. It's persuasive, it's very persuasive.
I will share with you one story. Actually, it's an allegation written by a person who claims to have PhD in Islamic studies, and I have a book upstairs. It's a book about the biography of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. This book is written in Arabic, and in it he says, when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, wanted to marry Khadija, Khadija's father refused. He didn't want his daughter to marry the Prophet because he was poor, orphan, among others. So the Prophet was brainstorming with Khadija, and they decided to give Khadija's father wine. So under the influence of alcohol, he would sanction the marriage. So now I first read that in a book written by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So I said, okay, Napoleon Hill, he isn't a Muslim, he's among the Orientalists, not a problem. But this is written by a Muslim with PhD in Islamic studies, written in Arabic. Now, if someone who speaks Arabic, even a student of Arabic, gets in touch with such a book, is a scholar, he gets this information, what will happen?
Dangerous.
Another one, they said when the revelation paused for a time, for some period, the Prophet ﷺ was so devastated, was so sad, was so grieved, so much so that he went to a high mountain wanting to commit suicide. It's written in some books. Right?
It's dangerous.
So you read it, it's in Arabic, and as I said, many people in Asia, Africa, they treasure everything written in Arabic. Not only Muslims. You will be surprised that you go to some houses of non-Muslims, you find verses of the Quran hung on the walls.
So what we're bringing up here is QED, quadratic demonstratum. I mean, we've just proved it.
Yeah, so I'm proving what. So what I'm saying is, the Prophet didn't say it's haram to share, so long as the opinion does not contradict with the teachings of Islam. One, so long as you do not encourage people to make your opinions a doctrine, it's allowed to share and learn from them.
That's the point.
Yeah.
It becomes doctrine. It is implied to be doctrine. When it's taught, it's taught.
It's implied. It depends on on the way you teach it. If
Well,
you
you
teach it
disclaim it
in
at
a
the
good
end.
way, just share the information with the people. Now, for example, if I just left you without sharing such information, you come and read a book, or someone tells you, and this is a scholar who has a big audience, you'll believe it. But here, I'm bringing them to you to caution you that these
Don't
are
get me
just
wrong, Hassan, I'm not
opinions.
saying it's about doing it. I'm just saying it's a divisive way to not for you, but
Yeah.
because this is not you. This is you presenting these things here, but it's not a criticism. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I know.
It's an observation.
Yeah.
Can I just,
Yes.
Yusuf, bless him, he was a prophet,
Yes.
a very blessed man.
Yes.
So the reason that he resisted this woman,
Mhm.
which to be honest, many other men have done in history as well, do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It was just, there was no need, that's very presumptuous, but there was no need to say that was an actual visual sign. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
He knew what was right and wrong.
Yes, yes.
He basically knew what was right
Yes,
and wrong.
yes.
And he wanted to honour, respect the bloke whose house he
Yes,
was
yes,
living in.
that's true.
So why, but what the gentleman's saying,
Yes.
you have to approach all this with real intelligence,
Yes, that's
real,
true.
everybody, that's what you pray for everybody, because otherwise it falls
Yeah,
into very
and
dangerous
this is
hands.
what we want to do. We want to train people to be intelligent.
Yeah.
And actually, this debate is good because whether we discuss it here or not, you will find it everywhere. I have listened to stories of the prophets on YouTube. You will hear a lot of horrible things on YouTube, right? And because someone has followers, he has adherents, it will be a doctrine. So whether we discuss it here or not, it's there all over.
Yeah.
And actually what we are trying to do is now at least to tell people, approach it in this way. So these are just mere ideas of people. This has nothing to do with the Quran, nothing to do with the Sunnah, because they are all over, everywhere.
But that's why we need to get back to the Quran and to the Surah, so we don't get confused.
Yes,
Because
yes.
if we keep reading that on the internet, you'll find.
Yeah, we stick to the Quran and the Sunnah. And this is what we always say, that just what's in the Quran and the Sunnah, follow that. Other ideas, just treat them like stories, like fairy tales. Yeah, Sister Nancy, you wanted to ask? Yeah. Yeah, but actually, yes, you are right. But at the same time, we can say, for example, it was him being a prophet and a messenger, is a role model to us. For him, he knows what's right and wrong, but not everyone who knows what's right and wrong sticks by it. There are people out there who know something's right, but they don't follow. So it's a warning to such kind of a person who knows this is right, this is wrong, but they don't follow, but that if you don't follow, these are the consequences. So if Yusuf as a messenger was warned, then you are even warned more than him. So this does not mean necessarily it was for Yusuf, but it was for the followers of Yusuf. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would always warn the Prophet, if you belie me, if you don't tell the truth, if you are this and this, I will punish you. If you fabricate وَلَوْ تَقَوَّلَ عَلَيْنَا بَعْضَ الْأَقَاوِيلِ, if you fabricate lies against me, I will punish you. So Allah knows the Prophet, but He is telling us, other people who are not prophets and messengers, that if this is a warning for the Prophet, then it's even more intense to you if you do what I was warning him. So it's a warning to him, like a lesson. It's like, for example, if I'm a wrestler, and I'm going to face two people. One of them is stronger, one of them is weaker. So I begin with the strong one. After giving him punch, this will be a lesson to the weaker one, that if I punch the strong one, then you are weaker, you cannot resist. So most of it, it's a lesson to us. Of course, prophets and messengers, as we said, they are sinless. But Allah sent them to guide us. One of the way of Him guiding us is to be, to instruct them strongly, so that we get message and we take it seriously more than it could be. Because someone might say, he's a prophet, his life was soft, Allah loved him, so I cannot compare myself with him. But Allah, even in the speech, is stronger, is warning the Prophet, which is a message to us who are not prophets and messengers. You know, actually, we usually say common sense is not common practice. You might see something as common sense, but you see someone, even an educated person, he's not following what's common sense. So always there is lesson for someone. Maybe someone is neglecting his duties somewhere, so this is a message to him. This is a message to her, not necessarily to the Prophet. And the Prophets are role models to us. So if Allah addresses them in such terms, to us it becomes even more severe. But all in all, Yusuf was innocent. He didn't harbor any desire whatsoever for her. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Jazakumullah khair. See you inshallah in the tafsir class on Monday. Barakallahu feekum.
Essential.